First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us at session 10F. My name is Alan Wareham, and our session title today, is Deafblind Citizens in Action in the United States, a Decade of Grassroots Leadership. Today we are joined by three speakers. Katrina Arndt is a professor of inclusive education at St. John Fisher University in Rochester, New York. Before working in higher education, in pre-service teaching education, she spent 11 years in classrooms as a preschool teacher, paraprofessional, and special education teacher. She teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in teacher preparation, including schools, ability and learning, inclusive education in today's schools classroom management, educational technology, and introduction to differentiated curriculum, instruction, and assessment. She is the co-author of Teaching Everyone, an Introduction to Inclusive Education and Picture Inclusion. Her research interests and consulting focus on inclusive practices in schooling. She is vested in reform that supports inclusive practices for all students. We are also joined by Amita Srinivasan. Thank you. She is a current member and past president of Deafblind Citizens in Action, a national disability rights nonprofit organization in the USA. After being elected president in 2018, Amita focused on the need for reliable, safe, and accessible transportation as key to increasing well-being and participation of the deafblind community in society and in the labor force. Finally, we have Divya Goel. Divya joined Deafblind Citizens in Action since summer of 2009, and she had an opportunity to meet with President Obama as part of a deafblind leadership program. She has increased her passion for empowering other individuals who are deafblind and their families to engage in effective advocacy. As an elected vice president of Deafblind Citizens in Action, Divya and her official team focused on the transportation rights in the United States of America. I'll stop there because I don't want to take too much time away from their presentation, so if you can join me in welcoming them, that would be great.
Good morning and welcome to our session. This is Katrina speaking. This is the image for DBCA, or Deafblind Citizens in Action. The 5 people who contributed to developing this presentation are Amita, Divya, Amy Parker, who is not able to be here today, Katrina Arndt, me, and Megan Conway, who's in the audience and listening now. Thank you for all your help in preparing this presentation. I will now give the microphone to Divya to review the purpose of this presentation.
Hello, my name is Divya, and I'm honored to be here to represent at DBI. This is my first time attending a DBI, and I'm very excited, and I'm honored to come and to present about what Deafblind Citizens in Action is for, and I'd like to give you a brief background. I was born in Canada, and then I moved to the United States. I identified myself as deafblind, and I have Usher syndrome, a particular type called HARS-B, which is extremely rare. It is a very rare form of sensory loss, and there's a very small number of people in the USA and Canada, and a few in India also, and we hope to identify more people with this type, HARS-B, in the future. Since moving to Florida and attending School for the Deaf and Blind, I started to advocate for myself, to make my own decisions, to face the obstacles I dealt with in the education system. So we had the Department of Deafness, and we also had programs for blindness, but for me, having both, there wasn't the support I needed to give me the access I needed as somebody with a dual sensory loss. So I decided to become empowered. My family was far away. I lived in a dorm, so I didn't have them there at school to advocate for me. So I did that for myself, and I fought with the education system. At the time, I was the only deafblind person, and there was not formal laws in place for deaf children with the rights to education. So DBCA, when they selected me to become a leader, to become involved as a student at that level in their leadership program, we had deafblind people from across the United States who came together and to fight for education. We came together to collaborate, to meet with people in Congress, to meet with people in businesses, to explain the needs that we had to improve life for the deafblind community. So specifically, I'm focused on the education system, and that has been quite a battle. I think about my own experiences during high school, those years being mainstreamed also. Once I graduated with a special ed degree from the deaf school, then I went to a regular high school to get a regular high school diploma, and then went on to college. And so those were my experiences with an education. And with DBCA, let's see where we are on the slides here. They selected 6 leaders, and the focus was for us to become advocates to help the deafblind community all over the United States, for children all the way through older adults. And so at the time, we were all young people, and we were focused on technology, fighting for technology rights, for healthcare, for transportation and education, a variety of issues, but all specifically focused on people with vision impairment. So now I've become president of Deafblind Citizens in Action, and we are looking to make bigger changes on a broader level for everyone.
Hi everyone, so my name is Amita Srinivasan. So I'm going to start by telling y'all a little bit about myself and my journey through Deafblind Citizens in Action. So first off, I'm Asian American, 23 years old, female, with short dark hair, black hair, and bangs. I'm dressed in navy blue dress with ruffles, and I have a gray tweed coat because I felt the need for tweed. And so yeah, I was born with CHARGE syndrome. I'm blind in my left eye, and I'm deaf in my left ear, and I am neurodivergent. Educationally speaking, I have a double major in psychology and human dimension of organizations from the University of Texas at Austin. I graduated in fall 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, and now I'm a data analyst for Dell Technologies in Austin, Texas. Basically, I just simplify and automate business processes for my team. So yeah, my journey with DBCA started in 2017. I had just finished high school and was attending a weekend leadership workshop at the Texas School for the Blind. Now the director, Ms. Ajit Bella, told me about DBCA and recommended that I apply to their program. So then I went for DBCA's Leadership Summit in, yeah. Of course, yes. I'm sorry, would you like me to start again or just keep up with where I'm going?
Review the purpose of our presentation.
Start from where I am? From right here. All right, so basically, so the director, Ms. Bella, told me about DBCA and recommended that I apply to their program. So I went for DBCA's Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 2017. And as Divya mentioned, DBCA started as a young adult program in 2009. And to continue my story in DC for the first time, I met successful adults like Divya Goel and George Stern, and who could not be here today. Of course. Okay, so yeah, I had this unique opportunity to see a different way of communication and learn about advocacy. Now, I use both oral communication and American Sign Language. In 2017, I learned about tactile communication, and I went to the Capitol to meet members of Congress and our representatives to advocate for issues that are facing our community. We did this as a group, and I was happy to be with peers who cared about the community. I was encouraged to accept a leadership position in DBCA at that time. And now I will go. All right. So DBCA, as you all know, is a mentorship program. We traditionally meet once a year, but of course we haven't been able to do that due to the pandemic. Now this. Okay. So this first image shows a group of DBCA members So as you all can see, the first image shows a group of DBCA members posing for a photo at some steps of Gallaudet University. There's a big poster behind them that says, Gallaudet at 150 years and beyond. These two men are in back row and are smiling. And I'm dressed in blue top and jeans and standing to the left of the three founding members of DBCA, George Stern, Masi Jebre, I'm sorry for mispronouncing the last name, and Divya Goel. Now, Masi is holding a guide dog, and on the last step, you see another young woman with a light blue top holding a cane, and she's also smiling at the camera. That is Danielle Burton. Her name is Danielle Burton. Now, the second image shows you 11 formally dressed people seated behind a desk and standing in the room with the flag of the United States in one corner. You can see Senator Markey at the extreme left. He has white hair and is wearing a black suit with a white tie. Blue tie, I'm sorry. He is looking at the camera and smiling. I and Divya are seated behind the desk with two other people, and we are smiling at the camera. The rest of the DBCA members, you can see them, and they're all standing and smiling at the camera. And we're all standing to the right of the senator. This photo is when we went to meet with Senator Markey to tell him about the Coxwell-Macy Act, which is a bill that strengthens educational opportunities for deaf, blind, and deaf-blind students in the United States. And Senator Markey, as you know, is a proponent of that bill, just so you know. So at the DBCA summit, I was able to see confident deaf-blind adults who were advocating, and that gave me the confidence to go and advocate for myself. So when I went to college at the University of Texas at Austin, I served in the UT student government as the disability agency director in my sophomore year. Junior year, I was the academic policy director, and I was able to put in effect policies that increase accessibility and safety for students with disability. So as you can see, we're all talking about leadership journeys here. You can see a trickle-down effect where a young new member see confident adults who can advocate strongly for themselves. And what we see is that these young members gain the confidence to go back and identify accessibility issues in their local community. They can address and find those solutions and then speak up about it. They can advocate for themselves and for others. Now, meeting in person and socializing and interaction is key with confident adults and role models. Is a key to our well-being and our mental health. To be able to socialize in a safe and nurturing environment is so critical for our community because we become isolated and left out of conversations very easily. That is one of the key reasons that organizations like DBCA become key in the development of future leaders for the community. Okay. One of my toughest challenges after I was elected as president of DBCA was maintaining engagement with both our members and our partners. Now, our notable achievements was when I was president are shown on the slide here. In 2019, I focused on transportation accessibility and communication accessibility in my term as president. When we talk about inclusive design, there's always a mismatch between our needs and the environment. Most technology today, including transportation technology, is designed for general consumer, and accessibility is added as an afterthought for people with disability. The case in point is the new threats is threats from Meta. That's the case in point. Think about it. The product was rolled out without accessible features. Now, pre-pandemic, we were easily able to meet with our partners and our allies to maintain engagement. We met with many companies such as TSA Care, Amtrak, and Portland Airport authorities to talk to them about issues in accessibility. As you can see, this image here shows DBCA members at Portland Airport, and we generated recommendations for safe navigation and accessibility of airports for deafblind consumers. The image shows 5 women, 3 men standing in front of giant monitor displaying flight information. The 3 women and 2 men, they are carrying canes, while others are standing behind them. I am dressed in a jacket and jeans, and Divya, who's casually dressed, is at the center of the group. All are smiling at the camera. The second image is of DBCA members at light rail train station, where we research navigation and accessibility of kiosks at train station. Image shows you 8 people standing at the light rail station. They are all using tactile and ASL to communicate now with each other while they're waiting. The station has the words Try, Met, and Union Station on it. I am wearing black sweater and carrying cane, and I am looking at Miss Hayes, who's our wonderful interpreter, board member, who's today also right in front of me. Okay, so in 2019, when we met in person with many transport organizations, and we presented at the Mobility Matters annual conference at Portland State University. After that, we surveyed many of our community members about their thoughts and comments about transportation access. Then we published a white paper with recommendations and guidelines for equal transportation access. Now, DBCA was also a member of the FCC Disability Advisory Committee, and I attended many of their meetings and in person and DC. The image shows me on the, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, I forgot to change the slide. All right, so I was in the subcommittee that generated best practice and guidelines for real-time text video relay service, audio description quality, and access to live programming for FCC. So we were able to advocate and work for accessibility, and we were successful in our community before the great pandemic, illustrating the relative ease of maintaining engagement when we were able to meet in person. Now, unfortunately, the pandemic took a huge toll on us, as it did with everyone else. Okay, survival became a huge issue for us, getting groceries and ordering daily living necessities, including food and water online, and through websites that were not accessible became the forefront for us. So basically, we were totally isolated in the initial phase. As an organization, we were trying to keep connected and tried our hardest to help each other, but it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard, and survival became an issue as many of our members struggled to get even basic necessities. Tech issues and accessibility became hurdles in our life as our life transitioned to online world. Community engagement decreased to a bare minimum during the pandemic. I mean, it did for all of us, regardless of our disability. But for our community, it was near total isolation, and it was very difficult to come out of it. Now, one last thing I'd love to point out before I hand it over to Divya is that while social media made it easier for DBCA to engage with our member allies and partners, it also decreased the focus on our organization as the focus shifted to an influencer celebrity model, and we found it hard to engage as we emerged from the pandemic. Celebrities and influencers do great work. They bring attention to issues and are able to mobilize their followers to fight for accessibility and equity. But small organizations like ours with less and less followers who are already struggling to put out content, we were left behind. All right, I'm going to let Divya take it away and talk about how she took over as president, the role she played in highlighting the issues that face us.
So I have been involved as a member and a mentor since 2009 until 2019. And so then I became the vice president, and after that, the president. So I'm currently the president, and we have had so many challenges. Due to COVID, people were not interested when they were challenged with trying to communicate. Technology was difficult for us, as Amita was just saying. So during this time, we've been wondering how to maintain connections, and we feel that we're starting over basically because DBCA has had a long pause during this time. So we have been fighting to get the organization back up and running and to proceed with a new team, with establishing new goals and new expectations and new activities to help the deafblind community. Basically dealing with everything. So we have our times of joy that we have had. We look back at our memories that we want to celebrate the accomplishments that we've had, including getting to meet President Obama. That was a very historical event for us as an organization. And so President Obama recognizing us and seeing the diversity in the deafblind population and seeing the access needs that we have with both vision and hearing loss. So for so many years, people have been totally unfamiliar with the success we have other than at the one icon of Helen Keller, but people don't realize, there are a plethora of other people. And so when President Obama gave us that recognition and congratulated us on our progress, that was a very historic moment, especially for me. It was one of my happiest memories. We have the picture. Katrina, can you get that picture up? Mm-hmm. There, so at this time, I am standing there and I'm wearing a traditional Indian dress, and we have people all around us, and I'm looking up at President Obama. He is looking at me, and he gave me a big hug, and he said that he wanted to hug me, and he said that I was a role model for him, and to see what a leader can do. So he, as President of the United States, recognized me as a role model, which was just an amazing experience. And that was very empowering for me after that, to realize the changes that we can make, the activities that we can do as deafblind leaders. And so also, other things, we have had a group of women who went to the World Federation for the Deaf and Blind in 2009 in Uganda, Africa. And so we were able to advocate on the issues of health for women and children, and also to advocate for the education system for children who are deaf and blind in both the schools and also in Africa itself. So, and that was a huge success for DBCA. So that we were able to work together to bring technology. Amita talked a little bit about Senator Markey, and he was a huge advocate specifically related to the education system and talking about the Cogswell-Macy Act. And also, he supported, has been a huge supporter of technology. We also have the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and we've had Senator Markey, and we have all worked together to provide supports for technology to get that passed. And DBCA has been involved with getting that passed and getting that approval. So this technology, the program is called I Can Connect, or ICC, and this has been very successful. They distribute equipment to both children and adults who are deaf and blind to enable them to have communication access. They can text, they can call, they can contact emergency systems, family, friends, engage with their community, everything. So that's been hugely successful, and DBCA has been involved with that and transportation and other topics. Also, we have dealt with another challenge, specifically communication from remotely. It's been hard for us to get together in person. And so when we try to email or we try to text or use other methods to communicate, it's not been all that successful. So we hope that we can develop new technology to make the deafblind community able to access more easily, and that we can teach younger people that will be our future leaders, maybe those next generations can take on the work that we're doing and become the leaders in the future. And so we're always going to continue to have change, and we'll still have new systems put in place that will be better than what we have now. So the time that we're in now, we're seeing improvements, and we plan to keep seeing more come. So our goal is to encourage young people to get involved, to continue the work, and to make impacts maybe for older senior citizens who need access and who are facing obstacles. We want to support them, and also people in their middle years and young children as well. We also would like to educate families and schools, healthcare professions. We want to keep up our work. We want to develop partnerships. We look forward to seeing a world where we have more allies and we work together. So we want to see success for the deafblind community all over the world.
Thank you, Divya. So I'm going to keep it short. What supports deafblind leadership is having attitude of learning. Negative, unhealthy attitudes and stereotypes disempower us. We deserve and demand dignity and respect. That's what we demand and deserve. So please come to us with an attitude of learning and not preconceived notions about us. We want that true communication with our partners and allies so we can build an accessible world for all of us.
Katrina, do you have the pictures from India and Nepal?
Mm-hmm.
So the last part of our presentation, it's not as much related specifically to DBCA, but a big part of my goal is internationally, I would like to see more support for people who have dual sensory losses. So we just mentioned Africa, but now I have another goal and another thing that's very important to me related to India and Nepal. I have looked and considered the situation there and the lack of access, the lack of support within the governments. I've gone there on vacation. I've seen what the situation is like, and it's become very important to me to be involved with people with Usher syndrome, the Usher Syndrome Coalition in India and Nepal. So I started becoming more involved in networking with people in India who are deaf and blind, and with their families and with their educators. So recently, in April, myself and 2 sign language interpreters, for the first time without a full team, without my family, the 3 of us traveled, and we faced many positive and negative experiences on our travels, but we went to see educators and teachers to help other people with Usher syndrome to collaborate and to share my own experiences as a deafblind person, how I navigate through the world as a woman who is deaf and blind, and how I have become empowered. And there in those parts of the world, they're used to men running things. They don't see women as leaders, and so they were very surprised to see me doing that as the presenter for them. And so I did several interviews. Also, I was able to teach a workshop with interpreters and how they can interact with deaf-blind people to provide access. And this was very new information for them. They had no idea how to work with people who are deaf and blind to provide access in schools and works and healthcare and everyday lives. And so I did a training, and I also got to talk with young women in Nepal and to show them, they could be empowered even if they are deaf and blind for themselves, that they can do these things and they can be equal to men. So we had a week there. We talked with parents. We had a variety of meetings. We helped advocate teaching people in both countries, and it was a very exciting experience for me. And so I became a board leader for the Society of Empowerment of the Deafblind in India. And I was able to show, my own leadership skills as a deafblind woman in India. And this was, a new thing I can add to my resume.
So thank you so much, Divya. So, our last hope for the growth of this organization. Our last hope for the growth of this organization is to grow DBCA. We want to expand it to other countries. We want to increase community engagement around funding. We want to increase partnerships with both private and government organizations so that we can have meaningful dialogue about increasing accessibility and building solutions with inclusivity. Thank you so much for letting me talk. I'm going to give it to Divya now.
I think that's the end of the presentation. What questions do we have?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Divya and Amita and Katrina for the presentation. I think it reminds us all of the impact that advocacy can have on making real change, and that the biggest impact comes from people that actually are affected the most. I also thought it was a real eye-opener. When COVID hit, it certainly affected us all, but it really exacerbated the isolation of people who are deafblind. So it was very interesting to hear that. So I'd like to open up the floor if anybody has any questions, and I'll just run around. I think I will ask the question and then bring you the mic back, correct? Or maybe not.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Robbins from Canadian Helen Keller Center. And you inspire me listening to your story, because I also serve on the board of the CNSDB, or the Canadian National Society of the Deafblind. And we struggle looking for emerging leaders like yourselves, young leaders, to take on the role from many of the, deafblind individuals and associate members. Many of us have been there for a long time, and we find it very challenging to find young, excited people who want to be involved. So it's very nice to hear your story today, because I think, we also need to work on and support the consumer groups in our areas to make sure that they're successful too. So.
Does anybody else have any particular questions in the back? Bear with me. I feel like Geraldo.
Hi, I had the privilege of meeting some of you guys when you came to Oregon. My question is to you is, I have a young student who would love to be an advocate. He's going to be a senior in high school next year. How do I prep him, and who could he contact to join your organization?
So I am Divya, and we have brochures to hand out, and there is a link there with more information to how to get started. We're still kind of reinventing our website, and we are going to add more, but it is there. So that's a great question, and we need more young people, definitely. We want them to be active. We want more of them involved. So that information, do we have the link? Katrina, did we add the link to the presentation? But so for now, like I said, we just started updating everything, getting started again, but we do have the brochures, and that provides you more in-depth information.
Was there another question in the back? Anybody else? No? Okay, again, I just want to thank you all. We do have a little parting gift for you, and I will get it now.
Thank you all so much.
Sorry. For Divya. Katrina. Megan. And finally, Anita.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So that's it for this session. I believe the next session is in Canada Hall 1, or my binder's over there. Second session? Okay. Anyways, again, one round of applause again for these ladies. Thank you very much.